In today's episode of Mysterious Stories Related to Jinn, the incident we are sharing has been told by Dr. Ibrahim. Today, we will learn about the jinn-related experiences that happened in his life. Now, I am going directly into the main incident, and I will share it exactly the way he described it, so that you can understand it clearly. He said, "Jinn are a real existence. Many people believe in this, while some, especially those with atheist views, do not. But according to Islamic belief, Allah says, 'I created jinn and mankind only to worship me.' There is also an entire chapter in the Holy Quran called Surah al-Jinn. From that perspective, jinn are undeniably real. If jinn want, humans can see them. There are hadiths regarding this as well. And if they do not want to be seen, then normally you cannot see them. In my own life, I have seen jinn several times, and I have experienced multiple jinn-related incidents. This may sound ridiculous to some people. Many might question whether such things are even possible, but it is truly possible. Now, I will share one incident from my life first. This happened about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was extremely frightening. At that time, I was studying in medical college, in my 3rd year. The house where I lived was right beside the medical college, literally next to the hospital. Hospital waste was often dumped nearby. Beside our house, there was a very large coconut tree. The room we were renting had some problems, but we didn't know that at the time. Many of you may have heard that some houses or rooms have issues like this. Our room had such a problem too, but we were completely unaware of it. How did we find out? I have a small niece. Many of you may have seen her in my posts. At that time, she was very young, around 3 or 3.5 years old. I was in my 3rd year of medical college, and that day, I had just returned from my forensic medicine training. You know, post-mortem examinations, cutting open dead bodies. That was my very first day of that training. That day, we performed an autopsy on a young woman who had committed suicide. Her body was completely opened, ribs broken, organs exposed. We saw everything inside, from the liver to the heart. It was disturbing. After returning home, I ate and then started playing with my niece, as I usually do with children. Suddenly, I noticed she was sitting in front of me, staring in a strange way. Her eyes were wide open, fixed on something, not at my face, but above my head. I realized she was looking at something above me that I couldn't see. I called her by name and asked, "Rihanna, what are you doing? What are you looking at?" Her eyes didn't move at all. I gently poked her belly. Normally, she would laugh immediately, but this time nothing. She kept staring, eyes wide, completely still. I knew something was wrong. I quickly called my mother from the kitchen, without turning around myself. I didn't want to look behind me. When my mother entered the room, my niece suddenly screamed loudly, ran to my mother, hugged her tightly, cried intensely, and then fell asleep immediately. It was around 8 p.m. She didn't wake up until the next morning. The next day, I asked her what she had seen. She said she saw 2 very large red eyes staring, a long tongue, describing it in her own childlike way. From that moment, fear settled in my heart. I started thinking, did something follow me from the morgue? Did something evil come with me? That incident passed. Another incident happened on a different night. I was sleeping in my personal room, around 1:30 or 2 a.m. I suddenly woke up hearing the sound of the calling bell, the same sound you hear when someone presses the doorbell. I didn't know whether someone actually pressed it or if I dreamt it. I was lying on my right side. In front of me was a dressing table with a mirror. The hospital lights were always on, and a dim light entered my room through the window, which I had left open because it was summer. When I woke up, I looked into the mirror, and what I saw terrified me. I saw a huge creature floating above me. It looked like a cow or a buffalo, something massive. hovering in the air directly above my body. I could see it clearly in the mirror. My eyes were open. I was awake, but I couldn't move. I couldn't tell if this was a dream or reality, but I was conscious. I tried to move, but I couldn't. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I could only see. I began reciting Allah. Allah, silently in my heart. I tried to remember Ayatul Kursi, but at that moment, I couldn't recall it properly. I only knew that reciting it brings protection. I kept calling Allah in my heart. Suddenly, the presence disappeared. I could move again. Everything returned to normal. I was terrified. I didn't wake my parents because they were asleep. I turned on the light and lay there awake, unable to sleep. From 1:30 a.m. until nearly 4 a.m., I stayed awake, shaking in fear. Eventually, without knowing how, I fell asleep. Then came the strangest part. In my dream, I saw my father. I was crying and telling him desperately that the same terrifying incident had happened again. In the dream, my father told me that at around 2 a.m., a being named him stays in that room, and around 3 a.m., another jinn stays there whose name started with. I don't remember the exact name. These were not Muslim names, possibly Christian jinn. As I realized later, it felt like the jinn itself was speaking to me through my father's form in the dream. My father then said, "Don't worry. No one will be able to harm my son. Insha'Allah." As soon as he said that, the door of my room opened with a loud creaking sound, like an old door being opened after a long time. I saw my mother entering the room, but it was not my mother. She looked like my mother, but her expressions, movements, everything felt wrong. It felt like a jinn had taken my mother's form. She looked evil, almost witch-like. She came closer and climbed onto the bed. At that moment, both my father and I stepped down from the bed. Later, when my father interpreted the dream, he explained that this meant the jinn had claimed authority over that place. Since they climbed onto the bed and we were forced to step down, it indicated that staying in that house was no longer safe for us. Many strange incidents had happened there before with others, but I hadn't known about them. When these events started happening to me personally, we decided to leave the house. Within 1 week, we left that house permanently. After that, the situation inside the house became extremely disturbing. Sometimes my mother would be asleep, and it would feel like someone was sitting beside her, reading a newspaper. The sound of pages turning, just like when paper is flipped, could be clearly heard. She would open her eyes, but there would be no one there. Once, my sister came to stay at our house. At night, while she was sleeping, she suddenly felt something bite her finger, like the clear sensation of teeth pressing into skin. She woke up immediately, but there was no one there. Another time, I had returned from an educational tour. After coming back, the house was empty. I was alone, and I felt afraid. So I called my friend Jahid and asked him to stay with me. He agreed and came over. After returning from Cox's Bazaar, we were freshening up. I was using one bathroom, and Jahid was using the other. In that bathroom, the door did not fully touch the floor. There was a gap of about 3 inches at the bottom. Later, after hearing all the incidents, Jahid told me something that disturbed me deeply. He said, "Bro, when I was taking a shower, I kept seeing shadows walking back and forth outside the bathroom door. I kept calling your name, thinking it was you, but you never answered." I told him that I was in the shower myself and never walked past his door. That was when I fully realized that something bad, some dark presence or jinn, was actually there. When we finally decided to leave the house, we informed the neighboring residents. They asked us why we were leaving. When we explained what had been happening, they slowly began to speak openly. They told us that this had been happening for a long time. and that many previous tenants had left the house for the same reasons. They said they hadn't told us earlier because they thought nothing was happening to us. But now, they didn't understand why the problems had suddenly started. Then I realized something. My mother is very religious. She regularly recites the Quran and tries to maintain an Islamic environment in the house. Perhaps because of that, the jinn could not affect us earlier. But when my nephews and nieces came to stay, small children who make noise and scream, it may have disturbed the jinn, making them aggressive. That aggression was directed at me first. They tried to frighten me. I was not very religious at that time. I didn't have much knowledge of Islamic practices, and my spiritual state was weak. Eventually, we left that house. Even the entire building had issues. No one wanted to stay there. This was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, so frightening that we had to leave our home. This one happened in my current home in Mohammadpur. I won't give the exact address, but this is our own flat. In this room, I experienced something, not once but twice. Since childhood, I have had jinn-related issues. As a child, I was told I looked very attractive. Because of this, a jinn once affected me so badly that I would not wake up until 9 a.m. eventually. A religious scholar was brought in. Dua and Ruqya were done, and I recovered. I never imagined that years later, I would experience something like this again. One summer night, during intense heat, my window was open. I was sleeping and dreaming about my nephew. I don't remember the dream clearly, but suddenly I woke up. I was lying on my right side. When I turned and looked toward the open window, I saw something terrifying. A human-shaped figure made entirely of mist was hanging outside the window, staring directly at me. I was on the 7th floor. There was no possible way for anyone to climb there. No ladder, nothing. And yet this mist-formed human figure was suspended in midair, gripping the window, staring at me. At that moment, my heart started pounding violently. I thought I might lose consciousness. As I watched, the figure slowly floated away, still staring at me, and disappeared behind the wall. That was the most frightening experience of my life. The previous incidents felt mild compared to this. I genuinely felt like my life was about to end. After that, I went to the bathroom, freshened up, and then I heard the Fajr Adhan. That's when I realized, just before dawn is a dangerous time. Jinn and other unseen creations are very active around 3 a.m. now. Imagine this. Being alone in a room and seeing something like that with your own eyes. This was not a hallucination, not a dream. I was fully awake. Another incident happened in the same house. Once, my parents and all family members went to my grandmother's house. I stayed alone in the entire 7th floor. Even the neighboring flats were empty. I turned on all the lights in every room so I wouldn't feel afraid. At around 2 a.m., the electricity went out. My sleep broke instantly. All the lights went off. I was completely alone in the building. I turned on my phone's flashlight. After a while, I started hearing a sound coming from the dining room. There was no one in the house. It sounded like an electronic noise, similar to a ringtone, but not like anything I had ever heard before. The sound continued nonstop for about 30 minutes. I knew someone was there. A jinn was trying to frighten me. Jinn do not usually appear directly in front of humans. They try to frighten from a distance by making their presence known. I kept reciting duas silently, repeating Allah, Allah. After about 30 minutes, the sound slowly faded. 12 minutes later, the electricity returned. There was no device in the house that could make that sound. Nothing. Yet the sound came continuously, as if someone was controlling it. I was terrified, but alhamdulillah, it did not harm me. It only tried to scare me from a distance. This is an important reminder. Do not fear Shaitan. Fear Allah. Shaitan rarely comes face to face. Fear weakens you. There is a story of a Sahabi who once encountered a Shaitan on the road. The Shaitan appeared in the form of a horse with a human face. The Sahabi scolded it fearlessly. The Shaitan said, "By Allah, if you had feared me, I would have harmed you." This shows the strength of the Sahaba's faith. They feared none but Allah. So this is advice for you all. Do not fear jinn. Fear their creator. We often call these beings ghosts or spirits, but in reality, they are jinn. There is no separate entity called ghosts or fairies, as people imagine. Among jinn, there are males and females, different sizes and forms. If we follow the Quran and Hadith, recite Ayatul Kursi, the last 2 verses of Surah Baqarah, Surah Falaq and Surah Nas, Allah grants protection. When you say Bismillah, the jinn cannot see you. When the adhan is called, they cannot stay. This is the final message of the video. Do not fear jinn. Fear Allah. If you do, no one can harm you, inshallah. Thank you.